Hi, and welcome to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm Ange McCabe, CEO and co-founder of Intuitive Performance. I'm a performance coach, HR professional, whole person leadership facilitator, and your host. The Human Side of Business podcast is fueled by the genuine curiosity to understand how personal characteristics and skills can be leveraged to drive individual and team performance, tangible outcomes, and ultimately organizational success within business. Each podcast is devoted to sharing knowledge, expanding our learning edges, and exploring the trends in corporate culture towards growing the emotional intelligence of organizations. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, and a warm welcome to episode 3 of the Elevate Business podcast. I'm your host, Ange McCabe, CEO and founder of Intuitive Performance. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Rosa Edinga, owner of Life Unmuted and Leadership Coach, and owner of FIAMA Coaching and Consulting. So by LinkedIn bio, Rosa is a woman entrepreneur supporter, communication skills geek, chocolate eater, book devotee, and ice cream mom. Welcome, Rosa.
Thanks, Ange. I love that. I love hearing that because I'm like, that is me. That's so fun. Congratulations. This is so fun. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Yay.
Thank you. So tell us briefly about yourself, your role, and your journey to not just one, but 2 businesses.
Sure. I think the word that comes to mind is almost evolution. So when I think about the journey, I want to say 8 years ago when I started my coaching practice, I was a leader in the public service. So I got to be a coach. And then when I was coaching leaders in the public service. So public sector and healthcare, and I loved doing it. So I was doing that. And I want to say maybe about a year ago, I started realizing something else. I need to expand to something else. And I don't know if I knew what that something else was. Mm-hmm. And looking back, I can say, wow, that was a bit of an evolution in terms of I was no longer a public servant. I was no longer in that space. I was different. And I was stepping into the role of, all of those things you said, the woman entrepreneur and ice cream mom and, loving developing that communication style and the impact of that.
Right.
You can communicate better and use your voice differently, what the impact of that could be. So there I was evolving into this other version. I don't want to say other version, other chapter, and my business hadn't caught up yet. So I would say I started getting curious about my own journey and saying, does the word entrepreneur fit? What do I want to do? What lights me up? And I had an idea where I said, well, I do think this woman entrepreneur place is a place that I can serve. It also is a place that I'm evolving into on my own journey. So I started having conversations with women entrepreneurs, just talking to them about their journey. Really, I started calling it a curiosity project because I was just following my curiosity. Part of that was, is there a space where I can serve? The other part of it was, I'm just really curious about these women who have said, I choose freedom, whatever that is for them. Freedom of time, location, whatever that ended up being. I was just curious about hearing about their experiences, their journey. And through those conversations, I ended up having 47 of them in about 3 months, 4 months. In that, I started to hear things that mirrored my own experiences, both in an organization outside of one, in terms of women who are maybe frustrated with knowing they can do more, knowing their company could be more, and trying to figure out how to do that, how to say, I want to own my dream. I want to own what I can do. I want to tell people that this is the support I need to do it without ticking them off or impacting relationships.
Right.
I want to do more and broaden and play bigger. I don't know how. I don't know how to convince myself. I don't know how to ask other people for the support. So then I created Life Unmuted, because that was out of a need that I saw that I lived. And I saw in other women at different stages, very successful women who were like, I want to do bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Am I enough? And it was this beautiful place. So that's why I started Life Unmuted. And my first project, my first foray out of it is a program that I'm calling Unmuted, is, working with a small group of women entrepreneurs to test the hypothesis that I heard. And how I've described what I do is helping women entrepreneurs who want to have a bigger impact, learn how to communicate so they can ask for what they want, the support that they want, have more influence, charge what their value is. That was also a big thing, and just create the business they want, the business they know is within them to create. So that's my journey to today. And if someone had told me that, like, you started a business during COVID, I'm like, yeah, why not? When isn't that, why not? Like, just do it through a pandemic. And I think part of it was, hey, if we don't find our voices now, if we don't do what we want to do now, and when? So
I really enjoy that, Rosa, because I mean, even through your journey, there's some powerful words and thoughts there that I'd like to revisit, but primarily just based on this last thought that you had. For you, what I'm hearing is that timing didn't matter. It was the power behind the curiosity and the power behind what you see as a really strong business theory or hypotenuse, as you had said, that you want to test. So COVID or not, pandemic or not, here comes Rosa. That's wonderful.
That. I'm putting that on my business card, Ange. Thank you. Pandemic or not, here comes Rosa. Because there is that, and again, there is that need, I feel. And it was like, why, I think there's a saying of the best time to start something is, 2 years ago. The second best time is today. So why not?
Exactly. And just revisiting. So what I heard from you was basically you looked within when you were in the public sector and you got curious. And so tell us from your definition, because we all have different definitions of what curiosity means, right? Because most oftentimes curiosity would be a question so that we can figure out an answer. So kind of what type of, I guess, motions did you go through from that curiosity to deciding I'm going to give away all of my job security for the entrepreneurship game? What drove that?
Well, there was, I want to kind of go back. There's a bit of a timing. I left the public sector when my son was born. Because I had continued to practice. I started while I was in the public sector. So I still had the security of, I know how to coach leaders in public sector. So that was who I was coaching. And making that leap was driven by something, I guess a theme that's come full circle now is how do I find a way to do something I love doing in a way that honors my talents and my skills and my passion and my purpose and my family, and what, my values, and what that's all about. So that's why I left the public sector. And this shift that you had mentioned about, or when I talked about my curiosity project and how that moved me into this new role, I had a spark of an idea. And I thought, well, what do I have to lose? And I started having these conversations, reaching out to women who I knew. And even during that, I think you talked about, having a goal and curiosity. For me, it was letting go of the goal. I didn't have a goal. I thought it was, market research. And then when I was in it, I'm like, there's something here. There's something else here. I can feel it. I can sense it. I don't know what it is. And that was uncomfortable. So it was letting go of the, why am I doing this? Because I didn't have I'm doing this to, create a program or write a book or I just went, I'm having these conversations because I think for me, it is that internal sense of there's something here that I have to find and I don't know what it is. I will tell you that was not comfortable sometimes. That wasn't comfortable having conversations with him, introducing it, of being like, hey, it's a curiosity project. Well, that was my discomfort. The women I talked to were like, wow, that sounds really neat. I love how you are embracing that. And so it was letting go of the certainty of doing it because it was like, I'm going to do this and this and this. It was almost that emerging and,
right.
Just trusting that, just follow that curiosity and just do it for that, once it aligns or how it aligns and being open to, it will align. Mm-hmm. Who knows where. So I had no idea. If you asked me when I started the shift, the evolution, the latest evolution, if someone had said, hey, this is what's going to happen in July, I would have been like, I can't make the straight line from point A to point B. So during that made it uncomfortable. So I hope that answered the question about
it did. It did very much so. And it drives me to the next kind of insights from you, because your journey is so interesting. Because oftentimes when we think about business, it's very much about strategy. You build your business plan, you build your strategy, you follow through, you check it, you test it, you look at your metrics, you have your accountants, but what I'm hearing for you is that's the polar opposite. So it was curiosity driven by the motives almost to understand what's out there and what's real, and testing, I guess, your inside voice versus what other people are experiencing from their voice.
I love that, because I do think that it's almost like they're the same coin. They're just different, because it wasn't okay, I have this strategy, I have all of the stuff figured out. Now I need all the, I'm going to put KPIs, and no, it wasn't any of that. It was, I think, from that place of, again, just knowing that there was power in these stories and these journeys and the conversations I was having, and understanding one of my values is service. And it was like, okay, so how, let's explore, where can I serve? Where can I serve where my skills will add value, and that would meet what, my purpose, what lights me up, what I love doing. So it was that exploration, and starting a business with I don't want to say a hunch, but it's not to sound like, just a hunch, is I think that part of that entrepreneurial spirit of, I have an idea, now let's figure out a proof of concept, if you wanted to look at it that way, of,
yes,
will this sell? Will people buy a product? Will people listen to me? Will people engage in what I'm trying to do?
Exactly.
And that's sort of what it's been. It's like, hey, is this resonating? And it has been. So then, there will be a point where it's like, okay, I feel that the hypothesis, the hunch, has some merit. And people have said, here's what it really looks like, and allows more lines to be put around it, and kind of more solid colors around the picture, not just this, outline. And when that happens, then it becomes, okay, so what are the next, what's the next progression? What's the next progression? And that's where I think, the metrics and how are we doing in measuring the stuff. But at this point, it's still trying to figure out what the question is.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently, very interesting, when you said the word strategy, recently was talking to my own coach, and we were talking about the word strategy, and she's like, in her mind, and she's been working with companies, and she's like, in her mind, it's your goal and your, what are you trying to achieve, and your outcome.
Exactly.
Is that one, as that guiding light. Strategy is whatever the heck you need to do to get there. Mm-hmm. So it's this interesting, let's put away the strategy for strategy's sake. Let's say, like, what are you trying to do?
Yes.
And then, how are you going to get there? Let's try, which is a scary and vulnerable and exciting and, sometimes fun place to be of let's try. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let's go this way in order to get you to your goal.
Right. Yeah, it makes total sense. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to kind of your curiosity and your understanding who you are is what I'm hearing, that that you're there to service and to serve, which is beautiful all in itself. But again, everybody has different levels or definitions or ways that they would enact that. So when you wake up in the morning and you're like, got to start a new business, like what actually drives that? Like, what is that?
That's a great question. And I think that's what was interesting, even when you talk about motivation, as you talk about it, and has the space for having the conversations. I hear the word drive, and it's what drove me to create something new, drives me to stay on course and say, I want to test this. And our women, how can I serve? What drives me comes down to my values, and how I define them. Because again, I can say my values, and my values are service, family, and that alignment to a whole person or purpose, like why I'm here. Can we, I want to build something that is bigger than just me. So how I define those, very different from other people. And how I started defining that in that space of actually be like, I really should create something. Okay, let's put some papers together. Let's do this. Is, what is the purpose? What am I trying to do here? And how does it enable me to be of service? And how does it enable me to create a life for my family? Not just the lifestyle and the flexibility. It's also,
Right.
Who do I want to show my son that, who do I a role model, for my son to say, I can be a really good mom and a really driven entrepreneur at the same time, which is a narrative that a lot of people, myself included, is a narrative that I've had to let go of just being. So it's that what keeps me going or what moves me forward is calling is old. I don't know. It's a bigger word, but it's this, I know that I can serve. I know I can impact people. I know I can learn more. So let's do that. And let's try. So I think that's to kind of what drives me is that place of I can do more to align myself to those values. And there's more. It's almost that there's a yearning or something. I can't even describe it. That's so strange.
Right. I love that because what you're describing, I feel, is the fundamentals of entrepreneurship in the sense of skill sets, right? Because we can have great theories, we can have great strategies. To your point, we can put some good papers together. But if there isn't some sort of fire that's in us or some sort of motivator, I believe, within us, to test it, to take those risks, to, fail to succeed, I guess, then you just have some really nice papers.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
In looking at the flip side of this, what we know that on the entrepreneurship kind of roller coaster ride, there's those days where we have to recalibrate the highs and recalibrate the lows. So sometimes those days just aren't going right. What is the narrative or what's the script for you to turn that around?
An ongoing student of the script. So as I described the script, it's not like, oh yeah, Rosa has it in the bag. This is an ongoing practice for me. And that, I think a couple of things come to mind. One is the power of pause when those days are happening where I'm like, wow, everything is just coming and you're being, okay, nothing seems to just there's no traction, or everything seems to be off a little bit. For me, I've learned I need to just stop and ground myself. And that literally, I have a dog bed in my office now. It's like a big pillow that I literally sit on the ground and just sit in it and sit in the discomfort and the messy and the yucky, and just not take any action, because for me, that pause allows the space between, what's happening and the I'm going to create stories about it. I'm going to act on those stories. I'm going to, take some action, which is not going to be in service to anything that I'm trying to do. So it's that taking that pause, or forcing myself to just pause, and as hard as it is, sit in that discomfort. And then now I've forgotten his name. Harv Eckert, he writes a book called The Millionaire's Mindset. There's a line in there that he says, you have a choice. Are you going to be bigger than this? Or are you going to be smaller than this? And to me, it resonated so much when I read it. And that I bring into the practice of, okay, you sit in the messy and, ask yourself, try to decipher, what am I creating here? What is the lesson here in this messiness while I'm eating chocolate covered almonds? Let's be honest. So I'm going to honor that and say, what am I creating for myself here? What's the lesson? And then asking the big question of, are you going to be bigger than this? Or are you going to be smaller than this? Are you going to sit here and build a house in your little narrative small place? Or are you going to say, cool, let's shake it off tomorrow. Tomorrow will be better, or let's shake this off. Let's keep going. I cannot say that the span between the bad day and me being like, I am bigger than this, is instant. Sometimes it takes a little while to be like, okay, all right, that's enough. Keep going.
Yes.
And then again, driving back to the drive, I'm not serving anybody if I'm going to sit there, including myself, including my family, including those people who I want to support. So the longer I sit in that, I'm not moving. I'm not moving forward. I'm not doing it. So it's that honoring the place, figuring out, okay, what are you learning from this? And then, trying to be like, are you going to be bigger than this? Okay, then be bigger than it. And get off the pillow on the floor. Put the chocolate covered almonds away, keep moving. Because like you say, it is a roller coaster. There's some days where it's like, oh my gosh, everything's working. And then some days where it's not. And if you don't move through and keep going, businesses just don't get off the ground. There's a lot of people who don't.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps me going, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And what continues to come back up for me as you speak, Rosa, is the fact that it goes back to your values, service. So even, what has been highlighted, and, the audience can't see you, but I can see you, and all of the plethora of books behind you, of all of those, you pick up this one quote that goes back to service. That's so cool.
Yeah. And even as you said that, again, it's this place of, for me, things started, again, going back to the word evolution, things started shifting when I had a little person, and a lot of things shift. A lot of things shift, this. And what shifts, one thing that's coming to mind that shifted for me is I can't tell my son things without backing him up. So I can't say, hey, buddy, resilient, come on, you can get over things, if mom's acting in a way that doesn't mirror that. Or, you can do anything you want. And then mom's being like, I can't. So it's this responsibility of, I know someone's watching. And it's interesting, even just that has, that way of looking at it has expanded for me, as saying there's always someone. Like, what if one thing I say is impacting someone? Because I know it's happened to me where someone has said something flippantly or just offhand, and I've taken it and just like, oh my God, that was like life-changing. So I'm like, wait a second, what if we all approached things that way? I know for me, it's how do I approach it? That I need to live the values. I need to behave like I'm saying, because someone's always watching and being like, So yeah, he's my teacher.
I love that. That's so amazing. And it's so true. I can't agree with you more. So when it comes to kind of where you've come from and where you're at, who or what are your biggest influencers for you?
I saw this question. It was a hard question. It was, for me, it was hard because I can't point to one person having a consistent influence on every aspect of my growth or of my life. What I've, when I'm looking back, there's people, and whether it's people I know or people I read about, or what they've written, have influenced the way I think or expanded it. Like I can say, sure, the things my parents instilled in me continue to have influence. And I didn't grow up around entrepreneurs. I didn't grow up around, those who are like, I'm going to take risks. My parents were immigrants. I'm a first generation immigrant. So risk is not something that comes naturally. So it's this, when I was looking at, or I was trying to think about influencers, it was I would say different people and concepts and ways of thinking have influenced at different places. If I want to look at the most recent iteration, most recent evolution, what has influenced me going forward with Life Unmuted and working to support women entrepreneurs in just using their voice differently were the 47 women I spoke to and the periphery of women that I've spoken to around there, or the research that I did about other entrepreneurs. So that, while it was influenced, it also inspired. So yeah, I hope that answered the question of when you say one person. No, it wasn't one. And I try to take it from wherever I'm going and being, because again, it comes back to that curiosity of, okay, Rosa, where are you? I asked, like, where are you, and what information do you need in order to find where the next step is?
I really enjoy that. And that's a nice transition too, because what I'm hearing is that from things that impact you in a positive way or inspire you or make you think or even challenge you, that to me, what I'm hearing is it kind of challenges you to the next level for you. Am I hearing that correctly?
You are.
Tell me more about it.
I don't know if I can. It's very succinct. I think for me, what is coming to mind was interesting is, as part of my conversations, one of the things, as I asked women to describe themselves in a word, like in 3 words. And some cases that was the most difficult. That was the most difficult question. So, like everything I do, I feel I can't ask someone else to do it without asking myself. So I asked my husband. I'm like, okay, not a trick question, not one of those. How would you describe me? And one of the words he used was driven. And I stepped back for a minute, and I'm like, oh. A lot of connotations around that for me. I've spoken to some women where a lot of connotations around for women, some of the women I've spoken to of the negative, words like driven and ambition. And I sat with it for a minute, and I started thinking about what he meant by that was, there's this, okay, so here's the next step. I'm going to have a coaching practice that I've had for 8 years. It becomes this, and what else? And what else? And not in like, what's the next big thing? It's this, as I've evolved, or even in other things of, okay, well, I can now make this sort of meal. Okay, what else? Like, it's just this. It comes from that curiosity place of, well, if I can make this type of bread, I'm not a bread maker, and came to mind. If I can make this type of bread, like, let's see what else. Like, it's that comes from like, okay, so what else? And it is that improvement. Like, again, even the place of when you talk about a word like performance, for me, that's, setting a goal and meeting it, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's this focused improvement of like, okay, so yeah, but what's next? I look at it from an athlete. It's like, okay, what's next? What's the next mark? What's the next highlight? And, so that just that continuous improvement, that focused improvement of there's all the stuff we can do. What's next?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very powerful. And I can't wait to share this with the audience. I'm so excited. So I want to thank you very much, Rosa, for joining me today. Really appreciate you sharing your entrepreneurial insights and what performance means to you with Intuitive Performance, myself and our subscribers to your company profile on the Elevate Business Podcast title page. So I want to say again, thank you so much and take good care.
This is awesome.
To the subscribers in the audience out there, thanks so much for listening to the Elevate Business Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the program. You can subscribe to future podcasts at intuitiveperformance.com, where you can also sign up for our webinars and learn more about professional coaching and the whole person performance solutions available to help fire up your whole person performance skills and drive actions for success. So until next time, stay true to you and take care of each other. We are all better together. Thanks for listening to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm glad you could join us. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated with our latest content, make sure to visit our website. The link can be found in the episode description, where you can subscribe to the podcast, sign up for our newsletter, and learn more about our whole person leadership services. Sounds interesting? Explore the Whole Person Leadership Cohort by Intuitive Performance, a unique program that offers unparalleled support to managers on every step of their leadership journey. Our program features evidence-based assessments, workbooks, group coaching, and interactive learning experiences to help you level up your leadership skills. Reach out today to apply to one of our upcoming cohorts. Until next time, take care and stay curious.